My detox started in 2021 when I transitioned from like basically the standard American diet into a aspiring fruitarian diet, which I still ate fried food. I still had falafel. I was more of a vegetarian, still having cheese and butter, and I would, have oil with my foods. And very salty, and then would sort of binge on holidays and have the meats and everything. So that was for 2 years up until the middle of 2023. I gave up all meat in April of 2023, and I gave up all coffee at the same time in April of 2023. So my detox symptoms started in 2021 because I had such horrible bowel movements. I was suffering from constipation. I was suffering from headaches. I would take like Midol before my periods, on my period, would have very heavy flow, and be sort of useless for the second day. I wouldn't be able to do much. I'd be pretty much lying on the couch. I still had acne, really bad skin. I was putting on tons of makeup at this time, still running my business under a lot of stress, working 6 days a week, eating out at that time still too. This is what I mean about having the falafels and stuff. So I'd have juice to start my day with no sugar in it, and then end up having a ginger ale and a falafel for lunch. And then God knows what I was having for dinner, some kind of pasta or something. So it was like, and then some days I would be like all raw. And then I would water fast once a week. So it was very conjumbled all over the place, but I still suffered from bloating and things because my gut microbiome was completely accustomed to a standard American diet. So I guess I slowly transitioned it by having more of a hydrating, fruity breakfast, still with coffee, and then moving on to anything I wanted to eat basically for 2 years up until I went to Europe in 2023 and then became homeless, living outside in a tent, sleeping in a sleeping bag on the beach next to the ocean. So I was outside 24/7. I went to McDonald's for Wi-Fi. I went to the park to shower. I didn't cook for the first 4 or 5 months on this diet. And I went from being completely underweight at like 114 pounds, standing at 173 centimeters, 5'8", to being like completely underweight in my BMI, to now refeeding on the beach, walking away from a house, walking away from a successful business, walking away from family, walking away from my country, walking away from everything I knew, and just inserting myself into a new place to heal and recover. And I went for colonics when I was in North America. So this is something that I think a lot of people overlook, or they think is not that important, but in my mind, it was like part of my success. So if you haven't done it, if you haven't even heard of it, do some research. This is part of bathing. Like, this is part of cleaning, and you're beautiful from the inside out. Like, what do your guts look like? So your skin is a reflection of all of your internal organs. Acne, inflammation, like redness. When I first came to Europe, my skin burned from the sun, and then eventually I was outside all the time. Like I said, living in a tent, and I was like, 20,000 steps a day. I was sweating constantly. It's very hot. So I was eating not a lot of salt, but I had feta, which had salt in it. So any kind of salt that I had was never added salt in the first few months. So, and again, these are like weight gaining foods. I was having milk, I was having feta, I was having goiabada. So this, I don't know, it's the size of my head. When people buy this, they expect to have it for months. This would last a day in my world. I would eat half and then another half with a liter of milk. The whole thing is 3 grams of fat. And I just had, this is the fruit that I had. I didn't have like watermelon, and I didn't buy all this fresh fruit. I had this and marmalade and jam. So when I say I ate jam, I would eat jars of jam. Have this kind of like sweet goiabada jam, sometimes squeeze some fresh orange juice. So just to give you like an idea of what I was eating, I was like paleo vegetarian with no eggs. I wasn't cooking anything, and I didn't even have like canned tomato sauce or canned beans or any of this stuff. It was just like jam, marmalade, goiabada, juice, milk, and then for dinner it was feta with olives and also some jam eating. It was part of my transition to gain weight and change my gut microbiome to now taking on more fiber. Even when I was a fruitarian, I spent a lot of money on a juicer, so I thought I'm gonna use this thing almost every day. So I didn't even eat the fruit. I was just juicing all the time. So you're taking on a lot more fiber than you ever have on a ketogenic, carnivore, even standard American diet. So now you're expanding and it feels uncomfortable, but this is part of the process of you changing your gut microbiome. That's just the reality. Not to mention, I was, again, outside all the time. Zero job, was not working. I would be on Wi-Fi a little bit and McDonald's or something, but that was far and few in between. That wasn't the focus of what I was doing. And on top of that, I was carrying all kinds of stuff. Everything I had, I carried. Like I left my clothes in the tent, but every day, like carrying water to drink, it was carrying food, it was carrying this to there. It was just constant movement and outside, fresh air, ocean water, absorbing the water through my skin, vitamins and minerals, and being outside all the time, having my feet in the sand, and then having that electric, like rewiring, you know, like I was just, it was unlike any other time in my life, like since I've been a kid, I guess you could say. I don't think I've ever spent this much time outside. So I had not zero stress because I went from one extreme to the other. So there was an adjustment there. Okay, I'll see you guys in a couple weeks. And then I was gone for 6 months. So it was a pretty crazy time, big change. I had like a psychological break. I had built a life that was just unsustainable. It was for other people and it wasn't the life I wanted. And then eventually you just reject it. You just can't do it anymore. So I suffered from really bad whitehead acne that came out a couple months after eating this way. And I'm gonna guess it's from the dairy, but again, I needed to gain weight. And this is what was available to me at the time, and this is what I chose. And it was exactly what I needed in the moment. I just took it too far. I kept having cheese in 2024, and then like, you know, now I've given it up. So I would suffer from like congestion sometimes. I would have maybe like allergies, you know, blowing my nose, really bad whiteheads. Like I said, there was a time where it would flare up. And again, I'm using no medication, no cream to clear these things up. I'm just keeping up with the diet of eating tons of sugar, drinking a lot of water, and then having the feta, which I would argue is like gotta be better quality than whatever's available in North America. A sore throat. It's like you would have these symptoms, but then they would just go away eventually. And I was never scared of these detox symptoms because in the fruitarian community, it's like everyone's favorite word is detox. And so it's something that I was accustomed to, and I knew that it was going to go away eventually, and it wasn't something like I needed to take medication for. It was my body getting rid of this element that I didn't need anymore. I really don't eat oats. I've had oats once in 2 years, and I think I recorded it on one of my What I Eat in a Day videos. I do not have oats because they're very fatty. I'm not telling you not to have oats, but that's just the reality of how it is. I'm not really having cereal that much right now either. I just eat the same thing over and over again. I have juice, fruit, something hydrating, baby foods, jams, purees during my day. And then around 4, 5, 6 o'clock, I end up having some kind of starch and very low fat, no oil, and right now, no extra salt, nothing. So at that time in 2023, for those first 6 months, I needed to rest, which I did. I slept a lot, and I needed to just keep my life like super simple. It was like, what am I doing that day? And that's all that mattered. Nothing else mattered. Everything else that I left behind, I left behind. So the amount of stuff that I ate like this was a lot. And it wasn't like I kept this on hand for a month. This was a day. And another thing is like I could only eat once you open something and you don't have a fridge, you have to eat it, right? Like you have to eat it. So I went grocery shopping every single day. And I grabbed only what I needed for that day. And I didn't cook. I didn't really buy any food until the last couple months, and got maybe some rice and soup with bread from the local taverns and stuff here, or get a McDougal style pizza. But there was flare-ups through my skin. There was inflammation. There was sore throats. There was headaches. Like, these things did happen to me, but now they are completely under control, and I know exactly what I need to do throughout my day to keep going very smoothly, and that is to start my day with water. That is to have sugar right away, something juicy, something fruity, and then continue sipping and drinking my water and having my hydrating carbohydrates, simple carbohydrates throughout the day. That's what works for me now. In the beginning, it was something similar, but I didn't even have bananas then. I would maybe eat one or two bananas, where now I'm making a smoothie with 5 something bananas. So, and I didn't blend anything then either. So it was very paleo vegetarian is, I guess, the best way I can describe it. And when I tell you that my life was living on a daily basis and I was like 10 shades darker than I am right now, walking all the time, moving all the time, carrying everything every day. There was no car, there was no place to store it, really. There was nothing. It was just like I was living in the tent and make a little nice place on a towel to eat something that didn't get sand on it and keep the seagulls away. It was a totally different lifestyle choice than I think most people are into. But that's what helped me, that's what healed me, that's what kept me going, and that's what elevated me throughout the levels of transition into this diet. Completely plant-based, high carb, low fat, sugar-based, low salt diet, where I focus on simple sugars during the day and my starches in the evening, and it's not a lot of ingredients. Food combining and hot and cold, all of these things have a impact on your digestive system and the route that it takes. So maybe in the beginning, because I didn't really cook anything in 2023, that did something. Being outside all the time, that did something. Jumping in the ocean every day, that did something. Walking around constantly in the sun, that did something. Having very limited access to the internet and screen time, that did something. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.